AI may become the first technology in history that makes millions of people feel productive, while quietly making many of them poorer than before. That sounds absurd. After all, artificial intelligence is supposed to make life easier, faster work, better answers, instant solutions. And that is exactly where the danger begins. Because for the first time in modern history, people can spend thousands of hours producing valuable outputs, while owning almost nothing they create. Think about that carefully. Every day, millions of people open AI tools. They write prompts, generate ideas, solve problems, create images, write code, build content, and then close the conversation. Tomorrow they come back and do it all again. Over and over and over. It feels like progress. But what if most AI users are confusing activity with advancement? And what if a small invisible group is using the exact same tools, while quietly building a completely different future? Because AI is creating a new kind of wealth. But most people still don't understand where that wealth actually comes from. And what you are about to hear may completely change how you think about artificial intelligence forever. One of the strangest things about AI is how quickly it makes you feel accomplished. You ask a question. Within seconds, you receive an answer that may have taken hours to find on your own. Your brain rewards you immediately. It feels efficient. It feels intelligent. It feels like progress. But feelings can be deceptive. Because productivity alone has never guaranteed wealth. Imagine spending the next 5 years using artificial intelligence every single day. Thousands of conversations, thousands of outputs, thousands of ideas generated. Now ask yourself something uncomfortable. At the end of those 5 years, what exactly will you own? That question changes everything. Because millions of users are becoming highly efficient producers of temporary value, and temporary value disappears. If you enjoy thinking about AI differently, subscribe, because this conversation is only becoming more important with time. But to understand the real problem, we first need to understand the trap most users are already falling into without noticing. Most people believe the value of AI comes from what it gives you immediately. An answer, a solution, a shortcut, a useful prompt, a piece of content. And technically that is true, but only partially, because immediate usefulness and long-term value are not the same thing. Here is the trap. You ask AI to help solve a problem. It gives you a useful result. You use that result once, and then you move on. The conversation disappears into history. Days later, the same problem returns. So you start again from zero. The same questions, the same research, the same effort, the same lost time. This happens millions of times every single day, and almost nobody talks about it. Artificial intelligence is helping people generate extraordinary amounts of value, but most users never convert that value into anything permanent. And if nothing permanent is being created, then what exactly are you building? Subscribe if you want to understand where the real AI advantage may actually come from. Because once you understand what permanence means, you begin seeing AI completely differently. For centuries, wealth has always followed one principle: ownership, not effort, not activity, not movement. Ownership. A factory owner and a factory worker may both spend 10 hours inside the same building, but only one walks away owning the machine that continues producing value tomorrow. Artificial intelligence is quietly creating the exact same divide. Right now, millions of people spend hours every day interacting with AI. They ask questions, generate solutions, create content, build ideas. But most of what they produce never becomes theirs in any permanent sense. Because once the conversation ends, the value often disappears with it. Think about the hidden danger there. You can spend years becoming extremely efficient at producing temporary outputs, while building absolutely nothing durable underneath. And if nothing durable exists, then all that productivity may simply be movement without ownership. Subscribe if you want to understand how, maybe quietly changing the rules of wealth itself. Because what comes next explains why most people completely misunderstand what wealth actually is. Most people hear the word wealth and immediately think about money, bank accounts, expensive cars, luxury lifestyles, financial freedom. But money has always been the final effect, never the starting point. The real source of wealth has always been ownership of assets that continue creating value after the work is finished. A book keeps selling, software keeps running, a business system keeps operating, a course keeps teaching, an automation keeps executing. The creator may stop working, but the asset keeps producing value. Now think carefully about how most people currently use AI. They interact with one conversation at a time, generate something useful, consume the result, and move on. Nothing permanent remains behind. No accumulating infrastructure, no reusable engine, no long-term leverage. And that may become one of the biggest hidden economic mistakes of the AI era. If this perspective is expanding how you think about AI, subscribe. Because next we need to look at the two completely different types of AI users beginning to emerge. Right. Now two different groups are forming inside the artificial intelligence revolution. At first glance, they look identical. Both groups use the same tools, the same platforms, the same technology, but their futures may look radically different. The first group treats it like a vending machine. They arrive with a problem, receive an answer, consume the result, then leave. Tomorrow they repeat the exact same cycle. The second group behaves differently. Every useful output gets captured, organized, improved, stored, connected to future work. One useful prompt becomes a reusable framework. One successful workflow becomes a repeatable system. One powerful process becomes permanent leverage. And over time, something extraordinary begins happening. While one group keeps consuming temporary value, the other group quietly accumulates infrastructure. Both groups feel productive, but only one may be building wealth underneath. Subscribe, because the next shift happening may completely redefine what knowledge itself is worth in the AI economy. For most of human history, knowledge itself had enormous value. If you understood something others did not, you possessed an advantage. Specialized knowledge created careers, created businesses, created status, created power. But artificial intelligence is quietly changing that reality. Today, millions of people can access knowledge instantly. Business advice, coding assistance, writing support, legal explanations, marketing strategies, technical expertise. What once required years of learning can now appear in seconds. And when everyone can access intelligence instantly, knowledge itself stops being rare. And when something stops being rare, its value begins collapsing. This creates a dangerous illusion. Many people believe access to AI automatically makes them valuable. But access alone changes nothing. Because when everyone has access to intelligence, the advantage shifts somewhere else entirely. Subscribe if you're beginning to see why AI is bigger than technology. Because once knowledge stops being the advantage, something else begins replacing it. And very few people are paying attention. If knowledge is no longer rare, then what becomes valuable next? Organization, structure, systems. The ability to capture useful intelligence and turn it into permanent infrastructure. Imagine two people using AI every single day for 5 years. The first person has 10,000 conversations, thousands of useful answers, thousands of ideas, but everything remains scattered, buried inside forgotten chats, lost inside temporary interactions. The second person uses the same AI tools, but every useful output is stored, categorized, improved, connected to future projects, organized into systems that keep becoming stronger over time. Same technology, completely different outcome. One person consumes intelligence, the other person compounds intelligence. And compounding may become the most important concept of the entire AI era. Because what happens when systems begin building on top of systems? That answer may explain the future wealth gap nobody sees coming. Compounding is one of the most powerful forces in economics. Small value created repeatedly begins growing exponentially over time. And artificial intelligence may now allow compounding to happen faster than ever before. Consider something simple. A person creates one useful AI prompt, uses it once, then forgets it forever. The value ends immediately. Now imagine someone else creates the same prompt, but stores it, improves it, reuses it across multiple projects, adapts it for different situations, teaches others to use it, builds an entire workflow around it. Suddenly one small output begins generating value again, and again, and again. This is the difference between temporary usefulness and compounding leverage. Most people think AI helps them move faster, but speed alone has never created wealth. Systems create compounding, and compounding creates leverage. Subscribe if you want to stop using AI like a tool and start understanding how AI may become an engine for long-term digital wealth. Because what happens next may create one of the biggest economic divides in modern history. History shows that technology rarely rewards everyone equally. The internet created extraordinary wealth, but not for everyone. Millions use the internet every day. They searched, browsed, consumed information, communicated faster than ever before. But a smaller group did something very different. They built websites, software, platforms, digital businesses, infrastructure. And while millions participated in the internet revolution, a tiny percentage quietly captured most of the long-term value. Artificial intelligence may now be repeating the same pattern. Most people are using AI for convenience. Faster answers, faster work, faster problem solving. But speed alone does not create ownership. And ownership has always been where wealth concentrates. Subscribe if you want to understand AI beyond tools and hype. Because the real question may not be whether you are using AI. The real question may be whether you are building anything permanent while using it. And that difference could separate future winners from future spectators. This may sound completely backwards. How can a technology that makes you more productive possibly leave you worse off? Because productivity without ownership can become a trap. Imagine spending 10,000 hours using AI over the next decade, writing content faster, solving problems faster, learning faster, building faster. Everything becomes easier. But at the end of those 10,000 hours, you own nothing permanent. No systems, no reusable assets, no automation, no digital infrastructure working independently of your time. Now imagine another person spending those same 10,000 hours differently. Every useful output gets turned into something reusable, permanent, expandable, connected to future value creation. Suddenly both people used the same technology, but only one built long-term leverage. This may become one of the strangest paradoxes in modern history. Artificial intelligence can make millions of people more efficient, while quietly preventing them from building anything lasting. And almost nobody is talking about it. Right now, most conversations around AI focus on tools, new model releases, new software, better image generation, faster automation, smarter assistants, and all of that matters. But there is a deeper question almost nobody asks. What happens after the output is created? Because the output itself may not be the real value. The real value may begin after the conversation ends. Did you store it? Did you improve it? Did you organize it? Did you connect it to future work? Did you transform temporary intelligence into permanent infrastructure? Most people celebrate getting better answers, but better answers alone may not change their future. Systems change futures. Assets change futures. Ownership changes futures. Subscribe if you're beginning to understand why the biggest AI opportunity may not be using artificial intelligence better, but building something permanent from temporary intelligence. Because the final truth behind all this may completely reshape how you approach AI forever. Something fascinating is happening right now. While millions of people are distracted by the excitement surrounding artificial intelligence, A smaller group is quietly doing something very different. They are building infrastructure, invisible infrastructure, prompt libraries, private knowledge systems, automated workflows, reusable business frameworks, digital processes that continue, creating value long after the original work is finished. And the interesting part is this: most people do not notice these builders because nothing dramatic is happening on the surface. No headlines, no viral announcements, no obvious signs of transformation. But history shows something very consistent. The people who quietly build infrastructure early usually benefit the most when everyone else finally understands what is happening. The AI revolution may not reward the loudest users. It may reward the earliest builders. Subscribe if you want to think beyond trends, because once everyone recognizes where the value truly is, the opportunity may already be gone. Years from now, many people may look back at this moment with regret, not because they ignored artificial intelligence, but because they misunderstood how to use it. They believed using AI itself was enough. They thought asking better questions was the advantage. They thought faster productivity automatically meant future success. But technology has never rewarded activity alone. It rewards people who convert activity into ownership. Think carefully about your own habits. Every conversation you have with AI produces some form of value. An idea, a process, a solution, a framework, a shortcut, a piece of knowledge. The question is simple. Are those moments slowly disappearing into forgotten conversations? Or are they becoming permanent building blocks for future leverage? Because the biggest mistake of the AI era may not be ignoring artificial intelligence. It may be spending years using it, without building anything that remains valuable tomorrow. Artificial intelligence is changing the world faster than most people realize. But the biggest transformation may not be the technology itself. It may be how society begins separating into two completely different groups: the users and the builders. The users interact with intelligence, consume value, solve temporary problems, move faster for a moment, then return tomorrow and begin again. The builders think differently. Every useful output becomes an asset. Every repeated task becomes a system. Every valuable process becomes reusable infrastructure. And over time, these invisible assets begin compounding quietly beneath the surface. This is where long-term leverage begins. This is where digital wealth begins. And this may become the defining difference between people who simply experienced the AI revolution and people who built permanent value because of it. On this channel, we study AI digital asset systems, because the future may not belong to the people who use artificial intelligence the most. It may belong to the people who learn how to build lasting value from temporary intelligence. And that difference could change everything.